You travel the world and speak to a number of different people in companies. I've as an American with European roots and having lived in Europe a long time, I kind of sense the cultural difference and the different way that Americans do business. Although I wouldn't say that the present day is a good example of that exemplifies the better qualities of our American spirit. But I think one could generalize that the U.S. strategy or attitude at the moment in particular is kind of the unregulated, just let it fly, don't worry about anything. Let's build something in Utah, even if we're creating a heat addition of 35 Hiroshima bombs with the new data center, and we're going to use up the little bit of water that's still left. I'm kind of doing the devil's advocate thing here, whereas Europeans have more this. Let's take a look at it first. Let's see, do we have regulation? And of course, Americans look at the Europeans. Hey, you guys are a bunch of slow losers. You have too many administrations, too much red tape. What's your take on that? What's your sentiment? What's better, or do both need to learn from each other?
Oof. Okay. We have how many? 2-3 more hours? There is definitely a distinct difference in how the U.S. is approaching this. I'd say that I've outside of the U.S. I have the most comfort in understanding what's going on in different parts of Europe and in Australia, New Zealand, given the span of time that we spend in those kinds of areas. A couple of different things is there's a different, I'd say there's a different attitude between the value of labor and capital. So in the U.S., where the story is generally being driven by a labor replacement story by capital. So put a lot of capital into these companies, put a lot of capital into data centers. We'll make our money back by laying people off, basically getting rid of labor. That's where the monetary value comes from. So if you are part of the capital stack, if you're the ones who actually are putting in the equity or debt into these kinds of things, that's where you're going to capture value. That is something that is fairly unregulated here. I mean, the internet in general and technology companies are generally unregulated. I know there's some in the Valley who'll tell you that, the government is over-regulating because that sort of libertarian streak has gone bonkers. In general, most of those people are somewhere between mistaken and smoking crack, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
It's
My words exactly.
They're just like, I don't understand where they're coming from. The opposite view is really quite different. So we actually just spent a good quality time in Europe. We'll be back again in the fall. We spent a lot of time with companies over there, partially because our work and our message resonates, because they're trying to figure out what it means for labor. They're trying to figure out what it means for people. They're seeing that their society is structured around an organization of people. There is a higher understanding of large organizations like governments having a social contract and therefore having social services that are provided. And so they think about the way that government interacts and how corporates
we still have the concept of serving the people here. We the people still matter in Europe.
Yes. And so we can show up and say, hey, it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be about replacing labor. You can figure out how to use these tools, even as presented today, to do things that are advantageous for you. We can also push as individuals and organizations and countries on better designs. Now, yes, some will take a sort of a policy and regulation aspect. That's not our purpose. That's not the kind of nonprofit we are, but I love that they exist. For us, we're trying to inspire different designs by giving things that people actually really want. And so we see that the tools can be structured differently and they can provide better value for people. There are also things that we can envision in the future. It's not quite practical quite yet today, but things that'll be better for the planet. So you mentioned, data centers and the hoovering up of energy and water.
I think there's absolutely no restraint, no consideration.
No.
We're not willing to wait until we have a better technology for cooling. We're just, just speed is
And we already have it better. Like we have renewable technology that can power these things. And both Helen and I spent a long time in the renewable space.
Yeah, I looked at your CV. I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like we know that we can power these things with renewables. We also know that closed loop cooling works. I know of some of the largest data center developers that are building data centers that have closed loop cooling in places like Florida and Texas because there isn't available water. That's something that can be done. And these companies have so much money rolling around that honestly, I'd love to see, again, we're not a policy-oriented nonprofit, so we don't get involved in that. But I would love to see stronger regulation around the cooling systems because the technology exists. It can be better. Longer term, though, where we come in and where our design focus is, we're very interested in pushing more of the functionality to the edge. We have consistently seen throughout technology that more and more compute goes to the edge, to your computer, from the server, to your phone, from anywhere else, right? And we know that there's a lot more capability that will be coming. One of the things that will drive massive upgrade cycles to your phones is faster chips where the inference can be done on your phone. Inference being done on your phone means the inference isn't being done in the data center. That's not just good for the planet, that's good for you. Like I want my model operating on my phone because I've already made the social contract with my phone and with Apple to have all of my data. It has all of my contacts, my calendars, my texts with my wife, my emails with everyone I've ever worked with. All of that exists on my phone. If I could have an AI that could actually use all of that and remain on my phone and stay in my secure enclave, now that's a really compelling product. Now, we've seen some signals of where Apple and Google are going. There are small models they're working on. They are working on data privacy and security. I actually believe that the greatest unlock in terms of design and usability will be putting more of this on the phone. That will also be the best things that we can do in terms of the trade-off that we're struggling with between AI and the planet.
I think you mentioned something. The key word there is the trade-off. I think that the ship has sailed. I think the next and every new generation is more susceptible and more open to it. We're going to know everything about everybody at some point. But I think the question is who has access to the data and for what are we using it? I think it's and there's huge potentials to it. From a health perspective and from legal perspective and stuff like that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, because you want a lot of that data to be secure, whether it's your passwords or the data feedback that's off of my Apple Watch or off of an Oura Ring. You need that to be just you.